Okay, so based on by the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm actually Benaya, the guy who created this, and this is just the front end aspect for this particular project here. And the reason why I'm doing this again is just because Kola lost the first one, so you guys should blame it on him. So let's move on to this project first. So basically, this particular project was created using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, along with some external libraries like Bootstrap for styling and AOS, which is animate on scroll for easy animation, for applying animation when the user scrolls to some particular section in the page here. So let me show you what I mean. So once the page gets reloaded, as you can see, this animation that comes in is actually being effect from this library here. And I want to go through the documentation. I'll drop a link for this particular library for you guys to go through it on your own. And it applies animation once this particular once a section which is down the screen. So let's move over to the index.html here. So index.html contains like the roots setup for the main page here. It contains the head. The head here just contains some meta tags, links, link, script, and other stuff. And whatever you put in from this head here will get loaded first as soon as this page opens up in the browser. So all this stuff, all this meta tag we are seeing here adds more information, gives more useful information to a particular website. So let's say you want this particular site to have some information whereby when this particular page or this site is being crawled by Google search engine, you want your site to show up on the Google search engine page. Google make use of this meta tags here, so they crawl these tags here along with some other HTML tags to make sure this particular site is visible on their page here. So right here, as you can see, this particular stuff is for the UTF-8 character. This is to link some external file here, which is the Bootstrap and the styled CSS file here. While this is actually the animation library, which is being linked from both the CSS animation library and also the JavaScript file here for it. So if you want to take a closer look at this, you can simply copy out this in the browser and just open it up, or just simply copy it out and open it up somewhere else in the browser. I'm going to open it up here. This is actually what's going on behind the scene for this particular animation library here. So you want to take a closer look at it, you can simply visit this particular site called AOS. This link here. I want to share this link in your WhatsApp for you to go through it. And that's all for this. You also have some icons. The icons is being provided by a library called Ion Icons. So let me open this up for you guys so you can see what is going on here. So this is the particular stuff here. It's an open source icons library for providing rich premium design icons here for both app and websites here. So as you can see here, these are actually some small, really cool icons. We have both the outline and the filled one. We also have the sharp one here. So I make use of both the outline and the filled one here. So if you click on it, it shows you how to add it up within your HTML file here, within this particular HTML file here. So this particular icon which you see here is being provided for those from this library here, and you can get that following their documentation here. So as you go into their docs here or usage, it shows you how to make use of this icon library here. So you definitely need to put this within the head roots as this particular page. They say if you are using iconic framework, Ion Icons package is by default, so no installation is necessary. Once to use this Ion Icons without Ionic framework, place the following script near the end of your page, right before the closing /body tag here to enable them. So you can either place this at the end or before the end of the body tag, let me show you guys this. So you can either place this before the end of the body tag here, which is this here, or you can either place it at the head section of the body tag here. So you can just copy it out and place it here. Then you can then reference each of these icon names here, each of these icon tags here, copy it out and place it within your HTML file for it to take effect on the site here. So I'm going to go in over to how the page works for a little bit, then move over to the code. So basically, this doesn't have any functional use yet, because this is just like to show what this particular app will do according to your proposal of what color gave me here. So this is when you come into this site here, you see this a little background here and some options telling you to join a ride or book a ride, and you can see some nav bars here, which is provided through the site here. So you can either become a driver, as you can see here, you can sign up to become a driver, and once you fill out this particular form here, it enables you putting your driver school ID, and there will be when the main when the main logic is being implemented into this app here, users can't just submit fake driver ID. We'll be using a library also to detect this particular ID. So when the user clicks on this and purposely submit an image instead of a driver ID image here, that particular library will tell if this is an ID or just JPEG image or something else. So we'll be able to add that when you guys plan to implement the logic. But for now, these are just the drivers can come in here to fill up their names and their driving license and so on, and they can choose to submit, and once they submit, it takes them to somewhere else here. So it takes them, so let me close this out. It takes them to their dashboard, and the dashboard is located. So if you guys if you're going through this instruction.txt file, I showed you guys how to move around in this site here. So for the first page, the home page is located at index.html here. The user logged in page is located in login.html here, while the user sign up page is located at signup.html page here. Then while the driver's login is located at driver's login.html page here and the driver signup.html page here. So these are the two different sign up page, and the reason why I separated it is just that in order to show you what's going on. So right now, if you go into sign up here or create accounts, you will see that this particular form is different from this here. It's different from oh, I didn't update or something. So let me just go over it again. Let me just update this. Let's look at this sign up. This should be, where are you? Become a driver. So this should be /driver, sorry, sign up the HTML page here. So when you go into this become a driver page, you can see that this page is different from what this here. As you can see, this is meant for users only, while this is meant for what drivers only. And that's just to show you the differentiation between two different users. So you don't want to allow a student to sign up as driver, and you don't want to allow a driver to sign up as student. That was the reason why this two page was separated. And next one is the login page here. The login page contains the user logged in stuff, both the email, matric number, and stuff, and some other stuff here. While the driver's login page, if you go into the driver's login page, let's look at this. You go into / driver login. Let's look at this. Driver login. You will see that this driver's page requires only an email and a password, while the student page requires both the email, matric number, and password for you to sign in. So definitely they can either provide their email address or their matric number. But when this page, once the logic will be added, they will no longer need to provide their email. They will provide either their matric, only their matric number for signing in, while the driver will provide only their email and password for signing in. Okay, I hope that you guys get that. And this is made possible using some HTML forms here. I'm gonna go over it. So once the user is actually logged in, once the driver is actually logged in, they can move into their dashboard. So let's go over the dashboard. So for it to move into the driver's dashboard, you can simply do like this: dashboard users.html. So not this. So the dashboard has two different parts. It has both the user part and the driver's part here. This is the driver's section here. Right, this is actually the users section. So they can either choose to book a ride, join a ride, or book a ride. The drivers will get events as soon as a user make request to this page here. So once the users send a request to this particular driver here, so let's say they choose join a ride, a request will be sent to the driver's dashboard, and the drivers can either choose to accept or reject it. And this page will actually show the from and to of where the user is going to. So this is just some dummy data, but will be implemented when the logic is being added to it. You will either have to, the driver will either have to accept or reject. Once you reject the ride, it shows you how many times you cancel the ride, cancel the trip, and how many times you accept the trip here. This is just like a placeholder value. It's not actually coming. It's not dynamically coming up from anywhere. And the driver can also look at some ongoing trip now. So you can either choose to call the student, or to cancel the ride. You can either choose to cancel the ride or call the student here. So the driver also can also choose to edit their profile. Once you click on edit profile here, this particular modals pop up with the driver image to edit it, and the driver full name and phone number here. So once you click on edit, once the driver clicks on edit here, it should be able to open up a new image for the driver to upload their profile pics also. So, but this is just the default profile pics once the driver gets signed up. So this will be implemented later on. And this phone name here, you have the full name. They can also choose to be their phone number, their email, and their password here. And they can either click save changes or cancel here. And the drivers also can also choose to log out. And once they log out, they'll be redirected back to this home page here. But let's look at the student page here. So this is the student page here. They have their name, their phone number, so, and they can either choose to join a ride and book a ride, and they can also tell if you want to log out or log in back. So once you click on edit page here, this same stuff appears also for both the students here. So it makes you reuse a particular piece of code multiple times here in this profile here. So once you click on join a ride, the student is being redirected to dashboard/join.html here. So you can see this page here, it says join a ride. They can either choose their location and their destination here. So once these two different location is being chosen, they can choose the number of riders they are coming with in order for them to join a ride with a particular driver here. So once they click on join a ride here, they get this message saying join ride successfully. But this one does take up in a matter of seconds. The system have to match or pair up with an online driver, so this will take some time. But I just showed you guys this in order for you to see what the outcome would actually be. Once the system pair you up with a particular driver, the system will also display the driver's name and the driver's phone number. So you be the one to either call the driver phone number also. And once you click on back, it takes you back to the profile page here. Once you click on join ride, it does the same thing also. Join a ride. Once you click on cancel a ride, it shows this loading spinner here. It shows that this particular ride has been cancelled with the driver. And the reason why I actually added this loading spinner is that once this particular cancel is being made, it makes requests to the server side, to the backend running on a different language, and that request might take some time. and for it to show the user, because you don't just show the user some dummy page, rather you want to show up some effect that tells whether this particular stuff is working or not. So I display this, I show this is this spinner here now for the driver to, or sorry, in order for the student to know that the ride is being cancelled. So once the ride is being cancelled, an alert will show up here, which is join cancelled there. So you can either click OK. Once you click on OK, redirect it back to the profile page here. And you can either choose to book a ride. It does the same functionality, except it doesn't accept numbers of passenger. Okay, and you can click on book a ride here, and it shows you the driver stuff again. So that's like the core functionality for this application here. And the home page also enables you, it shows you some features of what this particular stuff does. Get the ride as fast as possible, get the ride in a minute, get the best price in Badcock, and share your ride with your partner here. So this is just the front end aspect for it, not the back end aspect. The back end aspect for this particular stuff, if you want to add it, it's going to cost a lot of cash on it for me to implement it, and also time. So you can either choose to visit the Babcock, the student can either visit their sites to get information about this particular school or so. That was just what was implemented. So it's going to redirect you guys to this to your school website itself. Now let's see how this code is being implemented. So first of all, let's look at the index.html page here. Like I said before, the index.html contains the root application for this, the root file for this application here, and it contains the navbar, the header, the section. Let's look at the navbar first. The navbar is just like a block level element tag, because you guys need to know the difference between an inline level element tag and a block level element tag. The difference is that a block level element tag doesn't takes up the whole width of the screen, so it takes up the full width of the screen, just as you've seen here. While an inline level element tag, just a span or small tag, doesn't takes up the full screen, the full viewport of the screen itself. So this is just for how do I call it? This is just to show you guys each of this section here. So the navbar has this particular navbar here implemented here. This is the navbar here. So we have the div tag. Div tag is actually serves as a container, a bucket to store other element tags. That was the way I wrapped it up within different tags here. So they are being used to store different elements in an HTML file here. So we have the A tag. The A tag is used mainly to provide to actually the A tag, the anchor tag is actually used to create a new link for your page here. So when you come into this page here, you can see this link here down below, or this you can see it down below here. So this is what the A tag is for. So it provides you with the href attribute here. The href attribute actually tells you the URL for where you want this particular page to go to. But for this particular site, I want this page to go to when this image is being clicked. So once you click on this image, it redirects you to this site URL here. So that's what this particular site does. Then we have the button tag here. The button is used in creating a button, as simple as that. While the we have some URL tag here. The URL tag is used in creating an order list tag to create a list. So I need you guys to check up the difference between, or let me just show you guys something. I'm just to come up with it quickly. Let's look at HTML reference. Let's look for the URL tag. URL tag here. So as you can see, it says what an unordered HTML list here. It says the URL tag defines an unordered or bulleted list. Use the URL tag together with the li tag to create unordered list. So this particular site will give you more info what the different tags does. So I'm going to leave this site for you when sending you this video here. So it enables you to create a list. As you can see here, we use the li to create a list and different li. We also wrap the list. So we added an a tag within the list, which you guys saw here. All this stuff here, all this text here, they are being added as an a tag here. Visit Bangkok, become a driver, and other stuff. And the ref attribute tell when what you want, where you want this particular link to redirect the users to. So let's say you want to redirect to a sign up page, you can simplify this driver sign up page. But take note that this driver sign up.html file here must be located in the root directory. The reason why you see no dot slash is because this page, these two files are located in the root folder of this directory here. So this file is being located here. But if this file is somewhere in another folder, then you need to change the directory listing pattern. So you can simply do that by using dot slash followed by the folder name and the file name here. But since this file is not actually in a folder, we can simply provide the name only, just specifying the folder name here. So, and the URL, this is actually done. This is actually, where is it? So this particular stuff is actually meant for the drop down. So this is the drop down tag here. Once you click on it, it shows you this and other stuff. So it enables you to create a drop down tag. So we don't have drop down tag, but this particular stuff which you are seeing here, without the style.css, it won't be drop down here. So let me just change this particular style. Let me move this and show you guys this. So what you see now, you can see this is actually not positioned in this side here. So every style which you're seeing here was applied using CSS here, and that's it for that. We also have the header tag. The header is actually used to specify some header to provide information more about this page here. So we have the header that contains the h3, the break tag. The break tag is actually used in separating two different elements, or to give gap between two different HTML tag. This is so we are separating the h3 from the div tag here. That was why I added the break tag at the middle here. We also have the div where to specify the image. The images are being provided from the image folder here. So you have the bg tag, the bg folder, the header, the logo, the profiles. All this particular stuff has individual images here. All this stuff here, and some SVG. So that's that for that. Let's move on also. But the main focus of this tutorial is just to show you guys what goes on behind it, what's actually going on behind the scene. So let's look at the JavaScript file, because JavaScript file is actually the main focus for this. The HTML part, I can leave you guys to watch some tutorial because I can't really give you a crash course on HTML and CSS. Those are just the basics. They're the basics. They're not like important for now, but the main part is the JavaScript file itself. So let's look at what is going on. So for me to add a JavaScript file, so the way the JavaScript works is that JavaScript is actually a browser or client-side language. It's a dynamically typed client-side language. As you can see here, let me show you guys here. So JavaScript is the world's most popular programming language. JavaScript is the programming language for the web. JavaScript is easy to learn, and tutorial will teach you from basic to advanced. So you can simply check out this site at w3schools.com to get more info about JavaScript. So what JavaScript does to a page is that, let's look at HTML first as the basic structure of a site. So HTML is like the skeleton of like an animal or something like that, while the CSS is actually what add the cuteness to either lion or stock or any animal or human being itself. So just look at CSS as the body, while JavaScript adds the behavior, like the moving of your head, the arm, the eye, and other stuff. So JavaScript is like, without JavaScript you will be able to see only these sites. Once you click on it, you won't get all this fancy animation itself. So JavaScript make that possible. So let me show you guys something else. Let's look at I don't know, let me look at this application. Where can I get that? Where are you? Okay, I think it's actually from here. Is it here? What I'm trying to do right now is just disable JavaScript. Let me see if it's here. Now look at this. I've actually disabled JavaScript. Now let's see what this site looks like if JavaScript is disabled. Let's look at what this site does. The reason why it's taking time is that it's trying to look for the JavaScript file, and the page is actually telling us that what is disabled. That JavaScript is what disabled is blocked from this site here. So let's look at this now. Now look at, I'm actually clicking on this link. Normally when this link is being clicked, it should actually enable me to show up some login and create accounts from part here, but it's not showing me. But what if I join a ride? It's nothing is actually shown here. Let's go back. So as you can see now, once JavaScript is disabled from any site, that site will be useless. So JavaScript adds more behavior to the site here. So let's allow this. Let's just enable this for. Why is it taking it to load? I'm not connected. Why is it showing me this? Okay, it's connected. So as you can see now, once I click on it, it shows me that earlier. Join right, it shows me this. But once JavaScript is disabled from a site, the site won't function well at all. So JavaScript add more interactiveness to a particular site itself. So let's look at this now. So to use JavaScript, we can either write JavaScript in a script tag, or we can import it from a particular file here. So instead of me writing all my main logic of the client-side app in just this HTML file here, I need to write it in a particular file, then import it in. So I'm basically making use of the script tag followed by what I want to import. So I'm importing the logger.js, the main.js, and some other stuff, jQuery.js and bootstrap.js. The bootstrap.js is actually meant for bootstrap.css file here, while the main.js is actually meant for this main logic of the application here. While you might ask, what is this doing here? And what this particular stuff is doing here is that this particular library is coming from this URL here. So when we included this URL here, this particular site library URL or link, we need to create a class instance or initialize that particular library, then attach some duration to all boxes here. That's what this particular stuff is doing. So I'll go over it in the middle of the video now. So let's move on to the main.js file here. Don't worry about this section. Don't worry about this bishop.js file, the jQuery.js file, and logger.js file here. These three particular file here, don't worry about them. All you just need to worry about is only where are you? You're in the main.js file here. So the main.js file, let's look at the main.js file here. So the main.js file, as I was talking about it, is actually the root to every logic in our application here. So we have the active new event here. So when you come into the dashboard here, let's go back to the dashboard. Dashboard/driver. Sorry, let's move back to the wrong page. So you can see this new event. Once I click on this new event, it just pops up this model, and once I click on reject, it's the model visibility is set to none. So how does that particular stuff works? Well, in JavaScript we initialize our code using a function, and you know a function is actually called. It's actually meant to execute some certain tasks. So every task which you want to need that function to run, it's actually you declare every logic of your application there and then call the function. And the reason why I put this in a function is just that so you guys will know what a piece of code is. So we have the button, I shorten it to btn. The btn is this particular stuff here. So if you can move over it here, we are selecting this particular button from the DOM, and I'm making use of the Windows object called document. Sorry, the document object called document.querySelector. The querySelector method is actually used in selecting a piece of element from the DOM. So all what you see here is actually found in the DOM. If I move over this now, going to the element here, this is actually what the DOM is. Every element here. So let's say I want to grab this particular piece of element here. I know the element has a class called btn here, and a class called new event here. So for me to get this particular class name here, all I just need to do is just make use of the document object called querySelector. So the querySelector actually is meant to select a piece of elements from the DOM here. So what I mean by DOM is that the DOM simply means document object model. So it's just like what you're seeing up here. This is the DOM here. So if I want to select all H1 here, I can simply say document.querySelector. Right now, no H1 is here. You can simply let's text with p tag, and as you can see right here, we have a p tag here. So this is the p tag here. This particular place that is highlighting, we have the p tag here. So this is how we can select a piece of element from the DOM. So we can do this. We selected the button element. We selected the reject button element. Once that model shows up, we also selected the overlay. The overlay is actually the modal overlay itself. So when I click on this is the overlay. This black background is actually the overlay, while the reject button is actually this here. So this is the reject button here, which we selected in our code using the style, using the class name. So for me to select elements but by a class name, we make use of the dot notation. While if we want to select an element containing an ID, we make use of hashtag. So let's say if this particular element has an ID of reject button, instead of you saying ID and reject button like this, we make use of the word hashtag. But if it has a class name, we can simply make use of the dot notation here. So we have the overlay also as a class name of new event here. And we want to assign an event listener here. The event we want to assign is that once we click on this new event, we want this modal to show, right? The only way we can do that is by attaching an event to this button here. So this button, we can simply attach an event called onClick, At this, when we click on this button here, what should be done? So we attach the event by saying look btn not on click. What we need to do, first of all, we need to add a class attribute called active here. The active attribute has a style in our CSS file called display flex. Let's look at it. So this is active here. The active class here has an attribute of a display flex, which means that particular modal will actually get shown up in our screen here. By default, when we implemented this modal, we hide the modal using display none. But when we want to show that modal, we need to use another display property. Some display property can either be inline, block, flex, and other stuff. But we make use of flex in order for it to make that particular piece of container flexible. So we added this class here. But when we add this class, let me show you what goes on. Let's look for the modal here. So this is the new event modal. Now watch closely. Watch this particular style name here. When I click on this button, I need to see a new class name added to this piece of class here. So when I click on this, what do you see? You saw an active, which means we added an active class, and this active class in our CSS file is actually called display flex. So with that is the reason why this is actually shown up here. But what do we need to do? How do we hide this modal from the user? We can hide this modal by making use of by attaching an event handler to this reject button here. So once we click on this button here, we need to hide this particular modal by removing the class. Remember, to show up the modal, we add the class. We add the class of active. Why? To hide the modal, we need to remove the class. Whereby once we remove the class, that particular modal won't have that CSS class attribute or property added to it. So we make use of what class list dot what remove. So we remove this particular active from the overlay element here. So let's look at this now. We need to see this active class disappear once we click on this. So when I click on reject here, what you notice, it's actually get removed. So let's do it one more time. Can you see? It's actually toggling the class name here. So we are adding and removing the class name here. Adding and what? Removing the class name here. So that's that for that. Let's move over again to the next function here called hide and see edit container or content. So this particular function is responsible for hiding the user edit form here. So once you click on this edit profile form here, you'll see another modal pops up containing the user information like that, image and some other form fields here. The same logic which was applied in this piece of section is also applied to this piece of section here, and just the same thing. So the same stuff that goes on. So when we click on edit button here, what we need to do is to add a class of called hide and remove a class of what called show. But when we click on cancel button, we need to remove that show and add the class of hide because we need to hide that piece of element. Remember, this is just the class name. The main logic is actually declared in this CSS file here. So let me search for hide and see. Hide and show. As you can see here, the hide is what? Display none. While the show is what? The display flex. Remember, display none hides that piece of element, while display flex shows that piece of element. So we are really like toggling off the class and the class names here. So let me show you what's going on also. Let's look for the edit section here. So this is the edit, sorry, not this. This. Where are you? So this is the edit section. As you can see, it has a what class of show. But we want to remove this. Once the cancel button gets clicked, then we can make it a what class list dot what remove, followed by that class name which we added. So we say to remove this, we say what class list dot what remove that show, add the hide itself. So let's look at this. Once we click on cancel, we don't want to see the show class, but rather we want to see the hide class here. So when I click on cancel, what do you guys notice? You notice that the show has been changed to what? Hide itself. So now, if you are wondering what would happen if we don't do all this, now let's look at this. Let's look at what will happen. When I comment out this, and I comment out hide here. Now watch this. I've added the what? I have added the show class name, which makes this particular form visible. Now you are one by default, but I click on this cancel, we need to hide this particular form here. We can once we click on cancel, we are expecting this form to not be visible again, right? But since we've committed some code, this won't work. Now watch this. Oh, sorry, let me save my code here and refresh this. So when we click on, okay, sorry, let's look at not this hide. So let's comment out hide, but rather show. Now let's watch this. Let's click on edit profile once again. What do you guys notice? Nothing is working, right? But let's comment out this one more time and comment out this too. Let's see some magic which will go on behind the scene. So we click on this, we see the model, right? But now we're clicking on cancel. It's the hide distinction actually showing up there. But let's comment out this too and see what happens again. Right now, you are seeing that this class name still remain the same. That's why we need to remove the show class name and add the class name here. So that's why we are doing all this. So hope you guys get that. Alright, for the logout, how the logout work is that once you click on logout here, you see that once you click on logout, it redirects you back to the what index.html file here, or the roots of this particular site here. But how does that work here? Let's look at this particular piece of function, the logout function here. The logout function simply select the logout button here. This logout button. So we want to add an event that tells us that once we click on this particular piece of form, we need to redirect the user back to some certain page. But how do we redirect the user? We can simply make use of the window.location object here. Method. The location method from the window class is actually enables us to move from different routes to another. So let's say you want to move to google.com or slack.com. When a particular button is being clicked, we can simply add window.location followed by the URL. But in this our case, we make use of /index.html. Why do we do this? Why do we need to do this? Why can't we specify index.html instead of $index.html? Well, if you ask the index.html, notice that we are actually in our dashboard, right? The dashboard, this JavaScript file is actually present in our this dashboard here, right? And the index.html file is actually present in the root folder here. So let's look at this. Let me show you what I mean. Let me copy this piece of code here. So this is actually where we are right now, right? We're actually in this root file here. So when we click on this logout function here, we need to go from this to what? This. But how can we achieve that? If we just specify, if we specify only index.html file here, it will redirect us to this same page here, because the page is actually present in this particular dashboard is located at dashboard/index.html file here. So as you can see there, it's actually located at this route here. But we need to move from this dashboard/index.html to localhost followed by the index.html here. But how do we need to do that? Well, we need to come out from this dashboard folder, and to come out from a directory in normal computer understanding, we can make use of what? /. The /. Here is we're telling the computer here that to what? Move out from this directory. In our case, the directory is what? Dashboard. So we are moving out from dashboard into the root folder here. Into what the root folder. The root folder is located at the roots of this particular app here. Which is this here. This is the root. This is where our root file is located. So we need to come out from dashboard and move into what index.html here. That was the reason why we are specifying index.index.what.html here. And when we do this, we are simply doing what? We are redirecting to this particular piece of route here. So when we click on logout, what you notice is that it redirects us back to the root file here. So that's why we are doing all this. Now that's done, we need to move on to the logout. The multi-step form here. The multi-step form here. So let's look at the way the multi-step form works. Let's look at the timer first. 5 minutes. So the multi-step form, we are selecting different elements here. This different element is coming from steps, join button and cancel join button and back button here. So let's move on to the users.html here and look at what we're doing. So when you click on this, you see that once we click on this join a ride, the join a ride is coming. This button is actually coming from this join as a class name of this join button here. So we need to add an event listener to this button here. And the way we can do this is by selecting this particular piece of button from the DOM. We select it from the DOM and access it from this particular JavaScript file here. But when we select it from the DOM, we can add an event listener to this particular DOM here, to this particular button here. Now for the steps is actually a div. So if I inspect this right now, you can see that we have two steps. We have steps 1 and step 2. This is step 1 here. This is step 1 here, and this is what step 2. So when we select this particular piece of steps from the DOM, it gives us an array in JavaScript. So let me show you what I mean. I see documents, and remember that we are using query selector all here and all here, and we are using query selector here. But what's the difference? What's the difference between query selector all and query selector? Well, query selector is actually being used to select one single item or one single piece of element or tag name in the DOM node tree, while the query selector all is used to select all elements or all piece of tag name itself. So remember that these steps has more than one tags here. So it has two different div tag here, which is 1 and 2 here. So if we make use of documents.query selector followed by the class name of the steps, what do we see? It gives us it gives us only one single element here, but we need two, because the steps is actually made up of two different steps here. The only way we can achieve this is by making use of the query selector all. So the all return a node list of 2 items. The 2 items is actually an array itself. So as you can see, it has one item here and the second item here. The first item has a class of active, which is telling us that this first item should be the active class here when we click on that join a ride button here. But how do we move from this particular one item to this particular second item here, or tag, or this container here? Well, we can simply move it using their index position. In JavaScript, arrays are made up of index. We can access an array by making use of their index position. So let me give you an example. Let's name is equals to color and Toby. So for me to access color name here, I must make use of what? Their indexes. And arrays are zero-based indexes. And what I mean by zero-based index is that the first element in an array starts from 0. At least 0 and what? 1 here. So like 0, if this element extends to like 5, to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me show you this. So if I say name followed by what? Index of what? If you to access Remember, I told you that arrays are made up of zero base index, and to access an array, we can simply make use of their index position. In this case, their index to access color here, color is has an index position of what? 0. While Toby has an index position of what? 1. So if I say name of 0, what do you see? We see color here. But if I say name of what? 1, we see what? Toby. But if I say name of what? 2, we see undefined, because what? Index of 2, the index proposition of 2 doesn't exist. Can you see that now? But let's I think you guys understand this now. But that's the reason why we need to do this. As you can see, this is what? 0 and 1. So for me to move to the next step, we need to increment 0 to 1, because that's the reason why I did this now. The current position of the current index is 0. That's why I assigned 0 to a variable called current, or cur for short form, and I extract the first item here from these steps. Remember, the steps are 0 base index. The steps is actually an array having a 0 base index. So for me to access the first steps form, I can simply make use of steps index of what? 0. That's the reason why I did this here. Steps index of what? 0, to make it to give me that particular first step. So getting the first step, I need to show that first step. By showing this, for me to show the first step, I simply add a class to it here. So I simply add an active class. This active class has a display of flex, like I showed you before. The active class has a 0 steps. Sorry, has a CSS attribute of what? Display flex. Sorry, property, not attribute. So I simply add this particular class here to it. Then in our CSS file, I simply display it as what? Flex here. That's just why I did this. And when I display by flex, that's just why this first form is actually being visible. But what would go wrong if I use index of 1 here? Well, let's look at this. So as you can see, the steps have changed from what? 0 to 1. But we don't want to get to this position first. We want the user to select their locations, and once they click on join and write, they need to move on to the next step. So instead of showing this first, we need to show the first form here. The first form is actually what you are seeing up here, which is this. This is the first form here. So hope that's clear. So for we to move to the next step, we need to increment it from 0 to 1, like this. That's why I did core plus plus, or core plus equal to 1. So let me show you what I mean. So I have a variable called let current is equals to 0, right? For me to increment this current to 1, I need to do current plus plus, or current is actually plus equals to 1. What is that? We actually increment current to what? 1. So hope you guys get that a lot. Then when we can either use so I've shown you guys that we can increment a piece of number by making use of the plus plus operator or the plus equal to operator. So we incremented this by 1. So this current is no longer 0 again. Actually, it's now 1. So for we to move on to the next step, we need to add the current variable. The current variable is now what? 1. But meanwhile, if you add this current variable, there will be some clashing between these two different elements. Remember that the first step has an active of what? Has a class name of active, and this class name of active has a display flex. But if we add the same class name to the next step again, these two different steps would get shown up. That's the reason why we need to hide the previous element, the previous step, by removing the word class active and assigning the next step of the class active to it. So in this case, the previous step will actually would not show up again. It won't be visible again, while the next step will be visible now. So that's why we are saying this now. So if I move on to the next step, you saw that the previous step isn't what? Visible. Hope you guys get that. Now going into for the cancel button, right? the cancel button. The cancel button. Let's move on to the cancel button. When we click on this cancel button, we need to make a request to the server in our mind. So that's why I just implemented this. So we need to just show up a loading spinner. This in Bootstrap has a specified class name of spinner, border, and whatever spinner class we have. So we actually added this spinner to a div element here. This spinner will then contain a loading spinner, or a spinner, or a loading icon to it, or a loading GIF, whatever you call it. So we added this particular piece of spinner here. Then we simply wait for 2 seconds before redirecting the user back to their profile page here. So if I click on cancel now, it shows what it shows a spinner. Then it shows on alert. So let's look at what's going up here. So we click on the cancel button first. It shows up what this spinner. After it shows up this spinner, it shows an alert saying what join cancel. First of all, before it shows an alert, it waits for like 2 milliseconds. It's waiting for 2 seconds. Then it shows up this what alert, and shows up and redirects us back to this window.location users.html, right? And as you know, every code is interpreted from or compiled from top to bottom. That is why this alert is first shown before we redirect here. So the alert is actually first shown. If we click on OK, this piece of code gets executed by redirecting us back to the profile page here of the students. So hope you guys get that. So let's move back to this back BTN. So the back BTN, what it does is simply does the same thing. It will direct the user back to their profile page once it gets clicked. So if I say book a ride back, and I click on back, it will direct the user back to their profile page here. So let's look at join a ride and book a ride. So the join a ride, these two functions does the same thing. Simply it gets this particular piece of button, which is that join BTN, from the users page here, from this users page, and then if you click on it, it will direct us to this specified join page, and the book a ride. Once we click on it, it will direct us to the book.html page, and the redirecting process takes place using window.location here. So that's what the redirect process is. So hope you guys get that. So basically, this is actually meant for displaying the news event. If you guys don't simply understand it, you can simply reverse back to the video where I explain this all along. Then watch it one more time, because you won't get all this just once. You're going to watch this over and over again for you to get all this. So this is the book.html and the index.html. The book.html here has a select list. The select list is actually what makes us possible for we to select different locations. So this is all the locations are provided by this from this select tag here. So I would have implemented this using JavaScript, but I just need to do this for you guys to understand where this is coming from. And we simply display this button, as all this stuff you're seeing here does the same thing. And that's it for this particular code. If you guys need any question, you can simply ask me. Using WhatsApp. I don't know why you guys told me to explain this, but basically they won't ask you guys all this code that goes on. All what a lecturer need is just how the logic process work and your documentation. So your documentation will do the job. So I need you guys to really improve on your documentation in order for this, in order for your projects to stand out. Because once you show your lecturer this without having like the full logic implemented, just as what Peter did, like without a less documentation explanation, it won't, like, there will be some complaining issue. So you guys need to really do well in your documentation right up along with this. So this will actually make the stuff stand out. So hope you guys understand this. If you really have any question, again, like I said before, you can simply message me on WhatsApp. And thank you. I have to wait for this to finish. And besides, I need you guys to go cheer up through this code here, through this instruction, and I'll be sending some links to you guys. So let me just copy out the links which I did here. Where is it? This, I'm going to send this to your WhatsApp, these two different links, and I'll be sending in along this site for you guys to go through it. This site. So that's it. Thank you.